After studying this module, you will be able to understand some practical limitations of historical cost accounting in terms of its ability to cope with various issues associated with changing prices. Identify a number of alternative methods of accounting that have been developed to address problems associated with changing prices, and learn some of the strengths and weaknesses of the various alternative accounting methods. The basic objective of accounting is the preparation of financial statements in a way that gives a true and fair view of operating results and the financial position of the business to its various users, namely investors, government, creditors, management, trade unions, research institutions, etc. The financial statements are prepared based on certain accounting concepts and conventions. The money measurement concept is a basic attribute of the accounting. The money measurement concept states that only those business transactions can be recovered in the books of account that are capable of being expressed in terms of money. It also assumes that monetary unit used for recording the transaction is stable in nature. However, this is not true in practice, as many countries, developed as well as developing, have been experiencing inflation of high magnitude in recent times. Inflation refers to state of continuous rise in prices. It brings downward changes in the purchasing power of monetary unit. Thus, the financial statements prepared without taking into account the change in purchasing power of the monetary unit loses their significance. There is a demand that business enterprise should prepare inflation adjusted financial statements. The different ways through which financial accounts can be adjusted for changing prices is studied under the subject inflation accounting. Given that price changes can also be downwards, it is more appropriately called accounting for price level changes. Inflation accounting is a term that describes a range of accounting systems designed to correct problems arising from historical cost accounting in the presence of inflation. Inflation accounting is used in countries experiencing high inflation or hyperinflation. For example, in countries experiencing hyperinflation, the International Accounting Standards Board requires corporate financial statements to be adjusted for changes in purchasing power using price index. Historical cost accounting. Fair value accounting, also called as replacement cost accounting or current cost accounting, was widely used in the 19th and early 20th centuries, but historical cost accounting became more widespread after values overstated during 1920s were reversed during the Great Depression of 1930s. Most principles of historical cost accounting were developed after Wall Street crash of 1929, including the presumption of a stable currency. Historical cost accounting, also known as conventional accounting, records transactions appearing in both balance sheet and the profit and loss account in monetary amount which reflects their historical cost. The historical cost principle requires that accounting records be maintained at original transaction prices and that these values be retained throughout the accounting process to serve as the basis for values in the financial statements. HCA is based on the realization principle, which requires the recognition of revenue when it has been realized. Arguments which are advanced in favor of HCA are: number 1, accounting data under historical cost accounting are generally considered free from biases, independently verifiable, and hence more reliable by the investing public and other external users. 2. Historical accounting reduces to a minimum the extent to which the accounts may be affected by the personal judgments of those who prepare them. 3. It has been generally found that users, internal and external, have preference for HCA and financial statements prepared under it. 4. Historical accounting is also dependent on the ground that it is only the legally recognized accounting system accepted as a basis for taxation, dividend declaration, defining legal capital, etc. 5. And lastly, historical cost valuation is, among all valuation methods, currently proposed the method that is least costly to society considering the social costs of recording, reporting, auditing and settling disputes. Limitations of historical cost accounting. The drawbacks of HCA are: number 1, in times of inflation, the value of money declines and therefore the monetary unit of money declines, which is used as a standard of measurement, does not have a constant value and shrinks in value as the prices rise. The HCA ignores this decline in value of rupee and keeps adding transactions acquired at different dates with rupee of varying purchasing power. The HCA is based on the assumption of stable monetary unit, which assumes that 1. There is no inflation, 2. The rate of inflation can be ignored. This assumption does not prove true during inflation because of the change in general purchasing power of monetary unit. 2. Secondly, HCA does not match current revenues with the current costs of operations. Revenues are measured in inflated rupees, whereas production costs are a mix of current and historical costs. Some costs are measured in very old rupee, other trend to be in more recent rupees, while still others reflect current rupees, such as wages, salary, selling expenses and similar current operating expenses. In general, whenever there is a time lag between acquisition and utilization, historical cost may well differ significantly from current costs. 3. The inflated profits resulting under HCA are not the real profits but exaggerated and illusionary. This causes the depreciation allowance to become inadequate to replace fixed assets and finance growth and expansion. 4. Inflation causes many other problems and dislocations such as the following, which are not considered in HCA. The result is that historical cost figures become of less and less significance and the value of accounts for decision making is severely restricted. 5. HCA is defended on the ground of its objectivity. Objectivity is claimed because historical cost numbers are derived from actual transactions that have been entered into by the enterprise itself rather than from transactions that are being entered into by others in the marketplace. The objectivity that is claimed is largely unfounded because of the existence of alternative, generally accepted methods for computing depreciation, inventory valuation and other such items. As a result, there is a serious credibility gap in financial reporting. 6. Although historical cost generally represents current market value at the time of transactions, however, as time passes, the cost of non-monetary items in the balance sheet tends to move further and further from the current value due to solely to changes in the value of money. 7. Since historical accounting is based on realization principle, profit can easily be manipulated. By accelerating or retarding the timing of realization of gains, profits can be increased or decreased. To conclude, the HCA has several drawbacks which emerge mainly from two of the underlying principles, stable monetary units and realization principle. Moving on, let us now discuss the nature of price changes. Price changes can be of many types. Let us discuss these one by one. 1. General price changes. A general price change is the result of a change in the value of monetary unit during period of inflation or deflation. General purchasing power means the ability to buy all types of goods and services available in the economy, and it is measured by changes in general price level. 2. Specific price changes. A change in the price of a specific commodity represents a change in its exchange value. Changes in price of an input market results in increase or decrease in costs or expenses of the firm, and changes of price in the output market results in a shift in revenues, assuming that the price changes does not affect the quantity sold. 3. Relative price changes. Most often, prices of goods and services move at different rates and some even in different directions. The extent to which specific prices move at different rate or in a different direction from general price is known as relative price changes. Let us consider an example to understand the concept. If the market price of a product X was rupees 40 in 2013 and rupees 60 in 2014, and further if the market price of all products comprising general price index was rupees 250 in 2013 and rupees 300 in 2014, let us now calculate specific price index for product X, general price index for all products, relative price index for product X. Specific price index for product X is equal to rupees 60 minus rupees 40, which is equal to rupees 20, divided by 40 multiplied by 100. This comes to be 50%. General price index for all products rupees 300 minus rupees 250, which is equal to rupees 50, divided by rupees 250 multiplied by 100. This equals 20%. Relative price index for product X can be computed by assuming price index of rupees 100 in 2013 as a base. Specific price index in 2014 will be 150 and general price index will be 120 in 2014. Therefore, relative price index for product X is rupees 150 minus rupees 120, that is rupees 30, divided by 120 multiplied by 100. This comes out to be 25%. Let us now discuss the methods of accounting for changing prices. Many alternatives have been proposed in accounting to minimize the limitations of historical cost-based financial statements and to recognize the effects of inflation on financial statements. Of the many proposals that have been put forward for inflation accounting, the following two methods need specific consideration. Number 1, Current Purchasing Power Accounting (CPPA). This method is also known as Constant Purchasing Power Accounting, General Price Level Accounting. Number 2, Current Cost Accounting, also known as CCA. Current Purchasing Power Accounting, known by different names such as Constant Purchasing Power Accounting, General Price Level Accounting, Constant Dollar Accounting in USA, General Purchasing Power Accounting. This method adjusts historical costs for changes in general level of prices as measured by a general price level index. Changes in the general price level of prices represents changes in the general purchasing power of the monetary unit. Increase in general level of prices reduces the general purchasing power to purchase goods and services in general. It decreases in the general level of prices, increase the purchasing power to purchase goods and services in general. Under CPPA, by restating historical cost financial statements for changes in general purchasing power, the adjusted financial statements would reflect the original amount in terms of current purchasing power, which is, if spent today, would command the same general purchasing power as the original reported amounts. Methodology of CPPA. To convert the historical cost financial statements, an acceptable general price level index representing the changes in the general purchasing power of the monetary unit is needed. Generally, the most broad-based consumer good prices index is used. The historical cost figures are multiplied by a conversion factor, which is the ratio of all price level index at the date of conversion and price level index at the transaction date. A price level index is the ratio of average price of a group of goods or services at a given date and the average price of a similar group of goods or services at another date, known as a base year, when the price level index is equal to 0. The working of CPPA requires that, first of all, balance sheet items should be classified into monetary items and non-monetary items. Monetary items are those items which are fixed by contract or otherwise remain fixed irrespective of any change in general price level on price. Monetary items may be monetary assets as well as monetary liabilities. Example of monetary assets are cash, debtors, bills receivables, etc. Similarly, debentures, creditors, etc. are monetary liabilities. In the period of inflation, the holder of cash or other monetary assets lose purchasing power because of the cash they have or expect to receive represents amounts of less purchasing power. On the other hand, holders of monetary assets gain purchasing power during a period of deflation. These relationships are reversed for monetary liabilities. Holders of monetary liabilities gain general purchasing power during a period of inflation because they can repay the amounts due in rupees of lower purchasing power. However, holders of monetary liabilities lose purchasing power during a period of deflation. Calculation of purchasing power gain and loss on monetary items. The CPPA method suggests the computation of the purchasing power gain or loss made by an enterprise on holding net monetary items. Purchasing power gain or loss on monetary items can be calculated in two ways. Number one procedure is to calculate the purchasing power gain or loss associated with each monetary asset and each monetary liability and then sums up the individual gains and losses to determine the gain or loss. Number 2. A second procedure calculates the gain or loss on holding all monetary items as if they maintained in a single amount. Alternatively, under second procedure, general purchasing power gain or loss can be computed in terms of net monetary assets. This involves a series of steps. Number 1. Compute the net monetary asset position at the beginning of the period. For example, if the cash account payable at the beginning of the period are rupees 1 lakh and rupees 40,000 respectively, the net monetary asset will be rupees 60,000. 2. Restate net monetary asset position at the beginning of the period in terms of the purchasing power at the end of the period. For example, assume the general price level index was rupees 150 at the beginning of the period and rupees 200 at the end of the period. The net monetary asset position at the beginning of the period, which was rupees 60,000, would be restated at rupees 80,000, that is 60,000 multiplied by 200 divided by 150. 3. Restate all the monetary receipts of 1 year to the year basis and add this to the restated net monetary position at the beginning of the period as calculated in step 2. Assume that sales of rupees 50,000 occurred evenly during the year and general average price index was rupees 160. The adjusted monetary receipts would be restated to rupees 62,500, that is rupees 50,000 multiplied by 200 divided by 160. This result is added to rupees 80,000 as calculated in step 2 to arrive at a total restated net increase in monetary items of rupees 1,42,500. 4. Restate all the monetary payments of the year to the year-end basis and deduct all result from the total restated net increase in monetary items as calculated in step 3. Assume that purchase expenses of rupees 20,000 also occurred evenly during the year. The adjusted monetary payments would be restated to rupees 25,000, that is 20,000 multiplied by 200 divided by 160. This result is deducted from rupees 1,42,500 as calculated in step 3 to arrive at the adjusted computed net monetary assets at the end of the period, which is rupees 1,17,500. 5. Deduct the actual net monetary assets at the end of the period from the adjusted net monetary assets at the end of the period as found in step 4 to obtain purchasing power gain or loss. In this example, the net monetary asset at the end of the period is rupees 90,000, that is rupees 60,000 plus rupees 50,000 minus rupees 20,000, and adjusted net monetary asset as found in step 4 is rupees 1,17,500. Therefore, purchasing power loss on net monetary items is rupees 27,500. Treatment of purchasing power gain and loss. It has been widely suggested that the purchasing power gain or loss should be included in current incomes. Non-monetary items. All assets and liabilities that lack the properties of monetary items are classified as non-monetary. Non-monetary assets include inventories, building, plant and equipment, and claims to cash in amount dependent on future prices, whereas the holding of monetary items like cash and accounts receivable results in purchasing power gain or loss. The mere holding of non-monetary items like inventory and equipment does not result in purchasing power gain or loss because they do not represent a fixed amount to be received or paid, and thus their prices in terms of monetary unit may change over time. While most liabilities are monetary, non-monetary liabilities include equity capital and retained earnings. Non-monetary liabilities do not represent fixed claims to pay cash. The monetary assets and liabilities at the end of the year will appear as the same amounts, whereas non-monetary items are reported at their adjusted amounts in the CPPA adjusted balance sheet. The restatement of non-monetary items is done by applying the conversion factor given by current year index upon index when the non-monetary items were required. Profit and loss under CPPA. In CPPA, profit and loss account adjustments are needed about the following items: A. Opening inventory, B. Transactions during the year, C. Depreciation written off for the year end, and D. Closing inventory. The method to be followed for restating historical cost income statement under CPPA is basically the same as suggested for adjusting other historical amounts in terms of current purchasing power, usually applying the conversion factor by current year index upon index applicable to the item at the beginning of the year. Evaluation of CPPA. CPPA restates historical costs in terms of current purchasing power. This accounting method attempts to stabilize the measuring unit as a constant value that prevails on the latest balance sheet date. CPPA does not create a new basis of valuation or profit determination, it merely restates the actual costs that are incurred in currency units of different values into currency units of a constant value, thus making them properly comparable and additive. It, however, has depressive effects on profits. In the long run, the total profits shown by CPPA accounts will be smaller than those shown by HCA. Arguments in favor of CPPA. a number of arguments have been advanced in favor of CPPA, some of which are: 1. Inflation is concerned with changes in the general level of prices. Therefore, only CPPA can be regarded as a true form of inflation accounting. Those who consider inflation as an increase in general price level and a decline in purchasing power of money favor CPPA as best approach in inflation accounting. 2. As CPPA uses uniform purchasing power, the measuring unit, it possesses the qualities of objectivity and comparability. It has the further advantage of being based on historical costs and used in convention accounting system presently in use. Therefore, it retains all the characteristics of historical cost accounting except for the change in unit of measurement. Also, it does not involve the sometimes subjectivity measurements required by the current value and current cost method. 3. CPPA provides useful information about the comparable impact of inflation across the firms. Inflation affects firms differently depending on the age and composition of their assets and equities. Highly capital intensive firms are likely to report significantly larger depreciation expenses under CPPA method than normal depreciation expenses. Highly leveraged firms will report a larger purchasing power gain during periods of increasing prices than firms that use relatively little debt. 4. The CPPA improves the relevance and measurement of net income as it provides a better matching of revenues and expenses because of a constant and common measuring unit. On the contrary, conventional historical accounting does not measure income properly as a result of the matching of rupees of different size or purchasing power on the income statement. 5. CPPA provides relevant information for management evaluation and use. Purchasing power gain and loss resulting from holding monetary items reflects management's response to inflation. The stated non-monetary items indicate the approximate purchasing power needed to replace assets. 6. CPPA presents to users in general the impact of general inflation on profits and provides more realistic return on investments. Financial data adjustment for price level changes provides a basis for a more intelligent, better informed allocation of resources, whether those resources are in the hands of individuals, business entities or government. The arguments advanced against CPPA are: number 1, CPPA accounts only for changes in the general price level and does not account for changes in the specific price level. Since specific price movements are not necessarily synchronized with movement of general price level index, the restatement in terms of general purchasing power does not reflect current value of resources of the firm. If the general price index has increased, many specific price changes running at lower level than the general price index, whilst many others will be running at higher level. 2. Furthermore, there is a problem of choices of an appropriate general price level index. A general price level index that is applied must necessarily be a broad measure of purchasing for a comprehensive market basket of goods. 3. CPPA requires the identification and classification of assets and liabilities as monetary or non-monetary. The treatment of monetary items has been a source of criticism under CPPA. 4. CPPA method fails to remove all the defects of historical cost accounting system. 5. CPPA method is based on statistical index number which cannot be used in an individual firm. Let us now discuss the current accounting, which is CCA. The current costing method is an alternative to current purchasing power method. CCCA approach was introduced in the year 1975 to overcome the difficulties of CPP method. Actually, the CPP method applies the retail price index for finding out the conversion factors to restate the income statement and balance sheet. So, the CPP approach was criticized by the business world. Current cost accounting uses the value to the business as the measurement basis. Value to the business is defined as net current replacement cost, or if a permanent diminution to below net current replacement cost has been recognized, and recoverable amount. Recoverable amount is the greater of net realizable value of an asset, and wherever applicable, the amount recovered from its further use. The value to the business is lower of the current net replacement cost, recoverable amount, where recoverable amount is higher of the net realizable value or economic present value. Current cost accounting aims to maintain capital of a business enterprise in terms of its operating capabilities. Operating capabilities is denoted by the net operating asset of the enterprise in terms of shareholders' funds. As an equation, net operating asset is equal to total tangible assets plus net monetary working capital. A change in the input prices of the goods and services used and financed by the business will affect the amount of funds required to maintain the operating capability of the business enterprise. Therefore, maintaining the operating capability is the objective which is attempted to be achieved under CCA while preparing profit and loss account and balance sheet. CCA is based on UK accounting standard SSAP 16, current cost accounting issued in 1980. CCA aims to prepare A. Current cost profit and loss to determine current cost operating profit, and B. Current cost balance sheet. CCA profit and loss account related issues. In determining current cost profit for an accounting period, essentially two stages are involved. Stage 1, determining of current cost of operating profit. This is the surplus arising from the carrying on of ordinary activities of the business in the period after accounting for the impact of price changes on the funds for continuing the existing business, as also to maintain its operating capabilities of business is the amount of goods and services a business is able to supply with its existing resources in the relevant period. These resources are represented in accounting terms by the net operating assets at current cost. The computation of surplus is to be done without considering the mode of financing the business. It is to be noted that the surplus figure is to be before interest on net borrowings and taxes. Stage 2, determining of current cost profit attributable to shareholders. This figure of profit is taken after taking into account the manner in which the business has been financed. To the extent the business has been financed through borrowings, the full allowance of the impact of price changes on operating capability made in arriving at net profit may not be required, since the rights of lenders are fixed in monetary amount. Consequently, the current cost profit attributable to the shareholders reflects the surplus for the period after considering the impact of price changes on the funds required to maintain the shareholders' proportion of the operating capability. It is shown after considering interest, tax, generating adjustments and extraordinary items. In the case of balance sheet, the CCA method suggests that the assets, where practicable, be included at their value to the business based on current price level changes. This provides a realistic statement of the assets employed in the business and enables a correlation of current cost profit with net assets employed. Methodology of determining current cost operating cost. In order to obtain current cost operating profit from profit before interest on historical cost, three adjustments are involved. They are: number 1, depreciation adjustment. This allows for the impact of price changes when determining the charge against revenue for the part of fixed assets consumed during the period. It is equivalent to the difference between value to the business of part and fixed assets consumed during the period and depreciation on historical cost basis. B. Cost of sales adjustment. This accounts for the impact of price changes when determining the change against revenue from stock consumed in that period. It is the difference between the value to the business of stock consumed on historical cost basis. The resulting total changes represent the value of the business of stock consumed in earning the revenue for that period. C. Monetary working capital adjustment. This adjustment represents the amount of additional or reduced finances needed for monetary working capital as a result of changes in the input prices of goods and services used and financed by the business. Monetary working capital represents working capital component after excluding stock. In other words, it is aggregate of trade debtors, prepaid expenses, bills receivables and stocks not subject to COSA, less trade creditors, accruals and bills payables. Insofar as they relate to day-to-day operating activities of the business as distinct from transactions of a special nature. Bank balance may fluctuate with the net stock or the item A, B, C explained earlier. That part of bank balance and old arising from such fluctuations should be included in the monetary working capital along with any cash floats required to support day-to-day operations of the business. Of maintenance of such floats has a material effect on the current cost of operating profit. In the case of a business which holds stock, the monetary working capital complements the COSA and together they allow for the impact of price changes on the total amount of working capital to be used in day-to-day operations. Methodology of calculating current cost profit attributable to shareholders. The net operating assets, fixed assets plus stock plus monetary working capital are usually financed partly by borrowing and partly by shareholders' funds. The financing of net operating assets by borrowing needs to be reflected in current cost profits by means of a gearing adjustment. No gearing adjustment is required where a company is wholly financed by shareholders' funds. The logic behind the gearing adjustment is that while repayment rights are proportion of net profit assets are realized either by sale or use in the business, repayments and borrowings could be made so far as proceeds are not less than the historical cost of these assets. The gearing adjustment therefore discounts the operating adjustments in gearing proportion in deriving current cost profit attributable to shareholders. The reduction in the operating adjustments is normally achieved by adding back all three types of operating adjustments: depreciation adjustment, COSA and monetary working capital adjustment in the ratio of borrowing to the net operating assets. Average figures for the year are used for this purpose. Let us discuss the balance sheet related issues in CCA. Fixed assets under CCA are not shown at their original cost. They are revalued and stated at lower of the two figures. 1. Net current replacement cost. In other words, the price which would have to be paid currently to purchase a similar asset for same age as the existing asset. 2. Value of the asset based on the present value of the future earnings of such assets after suitably discounting future earnings with present value tables. More specifically, the SSAP 16 suggests a number of bases. These are: A. Land, plant and machinery and stocks subject to COSA to be valued at the value of the business. B. Investment in associated companies, directors' best estimate. C. Other investments, stock exchanges quotations or directors' best estimate. D. Intangible asset as best estimate of value of the business. E. Current assets other than those subject to COSA on historical cost basis. F. All liabilities on historical cost basis. G. Reserves in the current cost balance sheet should include revaluation, surplus, deficit and adjustment made to reflect the impact and price changes in obtaining the current cost profit attributable to shareholders. Current cost accounting, profit and loss account can be tabulated as shown in the figure. Let us evaluate current cost accounting. The adoption of current cost or lower recoverable amount in place of historical cost as the attribute to be used for measuring assets and, if relevant, liabilities also would greatly increase the relevance of information conveyed in financial reports, and it would increase its utility and representational faithfulness. The basic objective of current cost account is to provide more useful information than that available from historical cost accounts for the guidance of management of the business, the shareholders and the others on such matters as the financial viability of the business, return on investment, pricing policy, cost control and distribution decisions and gearing. Next, the current cost accounting possesses the merit of closely approximating the impact of specific price changes on the business enterprise because it makes use of specific indicates. The CCA measures an individual company's experience of inflation by reference to that company's specific pattern of expenditure. SSAP 16 points. The limitations of CCA, these are: number 1. As with the historical cost accounts, CCA is not a substitute for forecasting when such matters as a change in the size or nature of the business is consideration. It assists cash flow forecasts but does not replace them. It does not measure the effect of changes in the general value of money or translate the figures into currency of purchasing power at a specific date. Next, an important weakness of this method is that it seems to possess an element of subjectivity inherent in periodical revaluations, especially where specific price indices are not generated by an authoritative agency. Next, largest problem is the aggregation problem. The valuation of the firm principal has its theoretics roots in the valuation of individual assets, not the firm as a whole. Next, other important problems include the precise definition of replacement cost under conditions of economic and technological change. Let us summarize what we have learnt in this module. In this module, constant purchasing power accounting and current cost accounting are presented as methods employed to report the effects of inflation on financial reporting. Deficiencies of historical cost accounting are well recognized, especially during inflationary periods, and many accountants argue that the historical cost method should be replaced with a more competent accounting method which can deal with the effects of changing prices. However, some others argue that the historical cost method is based on arm's-length transactions, and this objectivity should not be sacrificed by using subjective methods. As a position of compromise, these methods are used to provide supplementary information within historical cost financial statements. In reality, financial statements cannot be preferred objective since they are prepared by the firm whose financial position is being reported. Moreover, some unavoidable uncertainties and estimates are part of all financial statements, and inflation adds to these uncertainties. The rational objective should be to reduce this uncertainty to a level which is reasonable. With this point in mind, inflation accounting methods can be utilized to increase the quality of financial data.